Le jour le plus beau de ma vie, ma nouvelle naissance en quelque sorte, fut le jour où je découvris que je n'avais pas de tête. Boutade ou provocation lancée par Douglas Harding, gentleman britannique qui se promène aux abords de sa maison de Nacton dans la campagne verdoyante du comté de Suffolk et qui apparemment ne présente aucune anomalie anatomique. Douglas Harding a bien une tête sur les épaules. Seulement voilà, cette tête-là, Douglas a définitivement cessé de la revendiquer. Elle est devenue absence afin de tout recevoir. Vide pour dire un grand oui à l'évidente réalité. Parcourant inlassablement le monde pour nous entraîner à sa suite à perdre la tête, Douglas Harding souhaite ardemment nous faire partager cet état d'éveil qui correspond à la vision de ce que nous sommes vraiment, vraiment. Avant d'entrer dans la salle du festin, avant d'ouvrir la porte d'une vie radicalement différente, suivant Douglas Harding sur la route qui l'a vu naître en 1909 et qui le ramène 84 ans après à Lowestoft, sa ville natale. Son enfance s'est déroulée au sein d'une famille dont l'appartenance à la secte religieuse des frères exclusifs de Plymouth conditionna l'éducation du jeune Douglas. Interdiction de rire, de lire des journaux, d'avoir des amis en dehors de la secte. Tel fut le climat qui enveloppa sa jeunesse et celle de son frère et de sa sœur. À 21 ans, il rompit toute relation avec sa famille et parvint, non sans difficulté, à suivre les cours d'architecture à l'Université de Londres où il obtint son diplôme. Ses activités professionnelles le menèrent à plusieurs reprises en Inde. Parallèlement à son travail d'architecte, il mena des recherches tant intellectuelles que philosophiques visant à répondre à la question essentielle « Qui suis-je » Travailleur méthodique, scrupuleux, infatigable, Douglas Harding entreprit la rédaction d'un important ouvrage, ce qui occupa 7 années de sa vie, et dont il nous présente aujourd'hui l'original.
Well, this volume is the typescript of my major work, written between the years of 1942 and 1949, typed by me and illustrated by me, titled The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth. And it is, you might say, a philosophy, a cosmology, a spiritual adventure which relies upon religious tradition, but also upon modern science, reconciliation of modern science with traditional spirituality. And all the stuff that has appeared in my subsequent books, the germ of it, the seed of it, is to be found in this volume. And as you see, it's an enormous book, and it appears in shorter, more condensed forms in other formats: English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and so forth.
En accompagnant jour après jour Douglas Harding dans ses activités les plus banales, nous avons approché un homme d'une exceptionnelle dimension, dont la chaleureuse simplicité nous encourageait à déchiffrer son message. Afin de faciliter la tâche de ceux qui cherchent, afin d'illustrer clairement ses réponses, Douglas Harding n'hésite pas à concevoir, à fabriquer des accessoires ingénieux permettant de toucher du doigt l'étonnante efficacité de la démonstration. Avec l'aide indiscutable de sa profession d'architecte, où tout est question de perspective, où la position de l'observateur donne de la réalité une vision différente, Douglas Harding nous propose sa réponse à la question « Que suis-je »
What I am seems to me to be a question of where you are looking at me from. Looking at me from a meter away, I am revealed as, why, Douglas, human being. Look at me nearer, and a piece of a human being, maybe a face, or closer still, a nose, a mouth, or even closer, a patch of skin. Or if you look at the same place that I'm at, and move away from me, again you get a whole lot of other different experiences. And I have here an instrument for reminding us of this fact, that what we are is a function of, depends upon, the range, the distance of our observer. And at that time, when you're very, very far away, light years away from here, but you are looking at in this direction at this center, which I'm pointing at now, why, you perceive a galaxy. And the name of that galaxy is, of course, or one name for it is the Milky Way. Now coming in, homing in towards the center, the arms of the galaxy enlarge, and what was like powder reveals itself to be stars, many, many stars. That is what I look like nearer to, namely the solar system, the sun with its attendant planets. Now moving nearer in towards one of those planets, one of those peripheral objects, what we next find is this one. And this is our Earth, our beautiful blue planet. What I look like at a distance of, say, 10,000 meters is perhaps a city like San Francisco. And then we're homing in further, coming in further, descending from 10,000 feet to 1,000 feet, 1,000 meters, 100 meters, and so on. We come to human beings. We come to myself as a human being. And I haven't shown the face of this human being. I haven't shown the face of this human being because it's up to you to put your own face on that one. And the masks, I've shown a lot of masks there, which could be put on this face here to make it into a complete human being. At the moment, this one hasn't got a head on him, he's just got a space for a face. So, pursuing our journey towards the center, what do we come to next? Well, we may come to, if I'm approaching you or you're approaching me, you may come to my face. You lose the view of my body as a whole, and you come to where I am reduced to a face. And you come further in, and what is revealed isn't part of that face, an eye, a nose, a mouth, an ear. And you come further in, and you get a patch of skin. Now, this is still alive, but it's not human, and there's no way of recognizing it as your own. It doesn't bear a name tag. is just a patch of skin. And we come in further, and what do we find the patch of skin consists of? It consists of very flattened creatures called cells. Now there are 50 or 60 kinds of cells, so I can't show all of them, but I have shown one of them, namely a nerve cell. This is what you look like when you are viewed fairly closely, but we're still a long way from home. We're not yet where you are, not at the center yet. So we have to move in further. And then we come to even more and more shadowy and hard to see things called molecules. And what are these things which are not colored, which have a certain shape, which are not alive? They are you at that very close range. They consist of atoms, which are like miniature solar systems, nearly all empty space. They consist of planetary particles, electrons, going round a central nucleus. But inside is as empty as a solar system. There's a kind of rings of waves sometimes, or particles around a central nucleus, like a solar system. And what are those particles? Well, they are even more difficult to talk about or to indicate. But they do. Particles can be the path of particles, not the particle itself, but the path of certain particles can be recorded and is recorded in an instrument called a cloud chamber. And you have the trajectory or path of a particle, which can be recorded and photographed. And I've indicated some of them here. And we're getting nearer, really almost to where you are. And we're not yet quite where you are, but what's happened on the way in is you've lost color, you've lost shape, you've lost humanness, you've lost livingness, you've lost materiality, you've lost practically everything. What are you then? Well, looking at you from outside, I've just lost you, that's it. I've lost you virtually. And I'm still not quite where you are at the center. You can't make it exactly all the way. Now, I complete the story. When I look here, which I do now, what do I find here? I find no thing at all. I don't call it nothing, because nothing is just sort of rubbish, but this is no thing which is aware of itself as no thing, and that's very different. And I can't, of course, indicate there's no thing at the center of my tool here, but I have done my best, and I've got a little transparent ball here, which rather neatly actually reflects the world in itself. So that's the best I could do was to put here what I am for myself, the place you can never quite get to, because you are outsider and outsider, and I'm an insider, and this is what I find. But doesn't this all hang together as most magnificent hierarchy of your appearances, constellated around, arranged around your central reality? You see, these are your appearances. This is your reality. And this is awake. Now, these are appearances. These are not awake. These are not conscious. These are pictures, pictures, pictures. But here is the awake one, who takes in the pictures. This is the screen on which the pictures occur.
Lorsqu'il ne travaille pas, Douglas Harding aime entretenir une relation étroite avec la nature, comme il le fait ici, en donnant des graines à un faisan qui a élu domicile dans son jardin. Au cours de l'un de ces moments de détente, nous lui avons proposé de nous substituer à son absence de tête par le truchement de la caméra, instrument qui témoigne sans penser. N'est-ce pas la méthode la plus simple, mais aussi la plus efficace, qui interdit de tricher, qui permet enfin d'être totalement vrai? Rentrons à la maison pour participer à l'un des exercices de la voix sans tête.
Now I am pointing at the wall, and I notice that what I'm pointing at has form, has limits, has color, has texture and pattern. And I bring my finger down, and I point now at a row of books. And it's the same thing, isn't it? What has color, shape, form and limits is this time a row of books. And I bring my finger down further and I point to my own feet here. And again, they have color, shape, limits, and so on, and are things, of course. And I bring my finger further down, and I am pointing now at my tummy, which is again has color, shape, and is a thing. It's a thing, and then a space, and then there's a thing. And I bring my finger further down, and I point to my chest. And the same thing applies. I'm pointing at a thing. And now I am pointing at what is above my chest, at what I'm looking out of. Is that a thing? Or is that space for all the things I have just been pointing at?
Et en même temps que moi, désignez le plafond.
Cet espace à la place de la tête, voilà ce qu'il faut tenter de retrouver par la pratique des exercices qui sont proposés dans tous les ateliers qu'anime Douglas Harding.
C'est périssable, puisqu'un jour, ce doigt va disparaître. Et ce doigt désigne le plafond qui est un autre objet, une autre chose, qui a une couleur, une texture, qui est solide et opaque. Remontez votre doigt maintenant au niveau de votre poitrine. Même schéma, doigt, chose colorée et solide, espace coloré. Et maintenant, avec la plus grande attention, je vous demande de monter votre doigt au niveau de ce qui est au-dessus de votre poitrine. Votre doigt, qui est un objet, désigne-t-il encore un autre objet ou ne désigne-t-il pas plutôt un espace illimité, vide, mais aussi totalement plein de la scène qui s'offre à nous?
Comme le précise Douglas Harding, il ne s'agit pas d'un sujet à controverse, ni d'une subtilité philosophique, ni d'une auto-hypnose, mais de la vue pure et simple d'un voix qui est ici, au lieu d'un pense qui est ici. Ainsi, libre de tout préjugé, sans faire appel à la mémoire, sans céder à l'imagination, l'évidence de l'instant peut amener à faire des constats a priori surprenants, cependant tout à fait réels.
Well, here we are drinking our coffee. 3 of us. 3? No, on present evidence, I reckon 1, 2.5 people drinking coffee. So for me, it's 1, 2.5 people. And for you, is it not the same? 1, 2.5?
Yes, it's the same.
Obvious.
Souvent, pendant le week-end, Douglas Harding reçoit chez lui quelques amis. Douglas n'a pas de disciples, mais des amis. Que ce soit à Acton ou n'importe où ailleurs, les exercices tels celui du sac en papier s'affirment une fois encore comme les étapes nécessaires, indispensables, selon Douglas Harding, pour obtenir la vision claire, en s'appuyant sur l'évidence de l'instant.
We do not see what we see what society allows us to see and what language allows us to see. Face at the far end, space at the near end. Have you anything at your near end to keep that one out with? This is not a question of what you think. It's not a question of what you feel. It's a question of what you actually see. And have you ever been face to face with anyone? Have you ever confronted anyone? The space here is instantly perceived, no time at all. So time to timeless, complication to simplicity, color to no color, and opacity, solidity and opacity at the far end and at the near end, total transparency. Are you not built open, built for loving?
Dans une ambiance aussi chaleureuse que celle qui préside aux ateliers, avec toutefois une nuance de convivialité intimiste, les conversations sont davantage personnalisées. L'exercice du miroir, fixé au bas d'un carton percé d'un ovale, permet de constater, sans aucun doute, que le visage est différent si l'on déplace le miroir. Ce visage n'appartient-il pas au monde extérieur des apparences, à la société ? À la place du visage s'ouvre cet espace aussi vaste que le monde, fait pour accueillir le monde. Au cours de l'un de ses nombreux voyages en France, Douglas Harding s'est arrêté dans le Gard durant l'été 1992. À Fondizières, là où Arnaud Desjardins transmet l'enseignement qu'il a reçu de son maître indien Swami Prajnanpad. Rencontre de deux chemins différents, certes, mais qui visent à atteindre le même but, quel que soit le nom qu'on lui donne. À cette occasion, Douglas Harding invita les disciples d'Arnaud Desjardins à pratiquer quelques exercices auxquels Arnaud Desjardins participa avec intérêt.
That space that you looked at, has it not become infinite without boundaries?
Cet espace que vous regardiez tout à l'heure n'est-il pas devenu infini?
Are you not that awake, infinite, deathless capacity for everything that is on show?
N'êtes-vous pas cette capacité infinie, immortelle, pour recevoir tout ce qui se présente?
J'apprécie beaucoup la manière tout à fait originale et convaincante
And I much appreciate the original method of Douglas, and this method is very convincing.
de Douglas pour transmettre ce qui est pas si facile à transmettre.
The method, excellent method to transmit something which is not easy to transmit.
Que ce soit à l'aide d'un sac en papier ou d'un miroir, que ce soit par la pratique de la méditation ou de l'ascèse, tous les maîtres, tous les sages proposent une vision claire, celle du jeune enfant, vierge de toute culture, qui n'est pas embarrassé par les préjugés, vivant l'ici et maintenant dans sa spontanéité. Lorsque Douglas Harding dit qu'il n'a plus de tête, qu'il a cessé de penser, que veut-il dire alors? Simplement qu'il regarde ce qui est, qu'il accepte la réalité, la volonté divine. Serait-il donc le premier à avoir perdu la tête et à encourager ses semblables à en faire autant? bien avant lui, d'autres, tels Rumi, le plus grand poète mystique de Perse, vivant au XIIIe siècle, cria avec force « Décapite-toi, dissous ton corps entier dans la vision, deviens vision, vision, vision ». Paradoxal, n'est-ce pas? Laissons Douglas Harding nous donner une explication.
Well, what does it mean to live without a head? First of all, I must emphasize that really I'm not living without a head. I'm living without a head here. I've got one in the mirror, perfectly good one, normal one in the mirror, and I guess on your shoulders you will find my head rather than your own. My head is presumably on view in that camera as well. So I have a head, but I don't have it here. Now, what difference does that make in my life? Well, first of all, I'm living from the way I am instead of the way I thought I was or pretended to be. I'm living from the truth. That's got to pay off. That's got to be a better life than living from a lie. And well, what is the great benefit, greatest benefit, I would say, of living from the truth? It is that I see that I'm open for you, absolutely open for you. There's nothing here in your way. I have nothing here to keep you out with. So what it means is that I am built for, constructed for loving relationships. Now, it doesn't mean I'm a loving person or a special person. It's all about being natural, just being who we are naturally. And when we are that, it seems to me, I'm sure, that we see we are open, burst wide open for one another. We do not confront one another like that. It's here, a case of here, I disappear in your favor. And I put it to you that you there, disappearing at this moment, in Douglas's favor, you have Douglas, and I have you. It's like that, isn't it? So, of course I have a head. The only thing is, where do I keep it? Where does it belong? I can't find it here, but I do find it over there, a meter or so away, in my mirror. And I think that's where the camera needs to be in order to record me. And I guess that's where you have to be in order to receive Douglas. So everywhere it is obvious that that's where I have it. So I do have a head, and you've in receipt of it now. But I don't have it here, and life without a head here is life from the truth. It's from my reality. You see, my face, Douglas's face, which you're in receipt of now, is one of my many millions of appearances. It's what I look like at a distance of, 2 or 3 meters. Here I am what I am, and that is totally different from what you are seeing. Thank God. Thank God. That one is, after all, dying, old, dying. This one is never going to die. There's nothing to die here. That one is small, this one is big, and so on. The difference is total. This is what I am. That is what I look like. You have that.
La persévérante mise en pratique de la voix sans tête aboutit-elle à la stabilisation de cette vision de l'espace d'accueil infini que nous sommes? Vision qui, bien sûr, transformerait radicalement notre rapport au monde des formes? Le témoignage d'une amie de Douglas Harding vient éclairer cette interrogation.
Well, Anne, I wonder whether you could say something about our meeting and what followed.
Our first meeting,
Yes.
many years ago, about 25 years ago. Well, for me it was a very slow process, really. I did see what you meant at the time, but I didn't realize that what I saw was it. And you were very keen to reinforce that that was so, that what I saw was it, that it wasn't a special kind of seeing. And it was several months later, after visiting you several times, that I found myself saying, I was actually hanging out the washing, and I just noticed that between these two hands there was nothing, there was no thing, and that in fact these hands were coming out of this great space that you had been talking about. And that was the first time I really voluntarily took it on myself to investigate. And I was on my own, and I wasn't under pressure. You weren't saying, look, you can see there's no face there, can't you? And under pressure I would say, yes, I can see that, yes, but can't be, it's not very exciting, it's not very interesting, I mean, it's just true. Well, there did come a time, as I say, when I realized it of my own accord, on my own, and that was important somehow. Meantime, I'd tried to convey this to my mother, even though I thought I hadn't got it. I was very interested. And my mother visited me very seldom because she lives a long way away. And she got what I was trying to say immediately. It was a very sudden thing for her. And she encouraged me to come back here and find out more about it and you, and she felt the importance of it immediately, and in fact it did change her life dramatically. If I'd stopped to think about it, I wouldn't have shared it with my mother. She would have been the last person I would have tried to share it with, because she was so uptight and very, very defensive about religious matters. Very, very frightened, really, and hanging on to straws. But for some reason, without thinking about it beforehand, I did convey this truth to her, even though I didn't think I got it. And it was the most dramatic conversion I've ever experienced in 25 years since first seeing this. And my father, in fact, said it took him 18 months to readjust because she was so changed by it. And since then, it's always been the centre of her life.
Le séjour auprès de Douglas Harding et de Catherine, sa fidèle collaboratrice et compagne, s'achèvera bientôt. Il reste beaucoup à apprendre, à recevoir de cet homme exceptionnel, prévenant, délicat, tellement ouvert à ses semblables, et dont la démarche ne se veut que partage. Cette rencontre, avec toutes ses limites, ne peut s'achever sans une approche encore plus fine de la voie proposée par Douglas Harding. Dans le calme de sa demeure, il a souhaité nous livrer ce qu'il appelle lui-même son testament.
The heart of our work is the experiments which take us beyond words to direct experience. Now, these experiments have two levels, what I call foundation level and superstructure. The foundations are concerned with matters of scientific fact, of what cannot be negotiated, what is either true or false. They are verifiable scientifically valid or not valid. They can be demonstrated beyond doubt. They can be verified. But there's another element in each of our experiments which belongs not to this foundation of hard, stubborn fact, but of application, of applied science, if you wish, the applied science of the first person. And here the experiment has a bearing, has meaning for psychology, for religion, for philosophy, for practical living, and so on. It is a matter of understanding and of feeling. Let me give you an example of this. In the mesoscope, or the paper bag, we find, beyond doubt, there's one face in the tube, one. The face is there, and here's the space. Now, that is foundation stuff. That's not negotiable. You can test it. It's verifiable by others. This belongs to what I call the science of the first person, the science which looks this way at the subject simultaneously with looking that way at the object. This belongs to the realm of science, an enlarged science, a science which is not a tunnel vision science looking only in that direction, but a panoramic science which looks also simultaneously in this direction at the subject simultaneously with the object. To see that I am open for you in the paper bag, burst wide open here for you, this is something which is not a matter of opinion. It's not negotiable. It's a matter of fact, testable and verifiable by the methods of science. This is true science. In fact, I would say it's more basic science than the science of the object. Now, when it comes to deploying our discoveries in ordinary life, then our interpretation of what we find in the tube becomes, I'm built open, not only built open, but I'm built for loving. And that this is going to make a great change in my relationship with people, that it will give me access to inspiration coming from here and freedom and all sorts of things, which are matters of opinion and are negotiable. Another example, in the car, I notice that I never move, and it's the countryside that does all the moving. And this is not negotiable. This is a matter of fact. And it can be checked by using a camera, a video camera, which will reveal there's the countryside that does all the moving, not me. But what about the superstructure here? What about the meaning for life? Well, I think when we're very, very little and honest and truthful, we see the countryside moving. We really see that and enjoy the spectacle of the telegraph poles rushing by and so on. And we get older, what happens? We get worked on by language and society and so forth. And we do not see what we see what we're told to see. And the countryside grinds to a halt. The carnival is over, the dance is over. That's trouble. And the second trouble is that the movement really belongs to the world comes and settles here. I lose my inner tranquility. So the facts are one thing, but the consequences can be another thing and should be another thing, namely that I regain my tranquility here when I give back the motion that I had stolen from the world, give it back to the world. And so with our other experiments. Each one has an element of scientific, verifiable fact, and each one has an element belonging to the superstructure, concerned with feeling and living and interpretation, psychology and philosophy. Now, we live in the superstructure, not being worms or moles or escapees from reality. We live in the superstructure. But, I say, the way to live in the superstructure, truthfully and well, is to attend to the foundations. If we build on sound foundations, then I know that in the superstructure, in our life in the world, with people and so on, our life there is going to be very different because it's founded on fact. Now, ordinary life, as we live it, conditioned life, as we live it normally, our unenlightened life, if you like to say, is founded on unexamined presumptions, prejudice, not looking to see, is built on quicksand, is not built on sound foundations. And I say, let's look to the foundations and the superstructure. We shall find lots of changes there. And who can assess the blessings which will come from our life in the superstructure of society and family and friends and work and all that? Who can assess the blessings which will arrive when we live from who we are, who we really are at foundation, at depth, instead of lying about it? Well, one consequence of this distinction between foundations and superstructure is that I no longer go around saying very humbly, that this is a way and not the way. I don't do that anymore.
Let's tell the truth. Truth which underlies all our life, whether we recognize it or not.
That truth. And negotiate. We don't say this is a way, we say this is the way, in respect of foundation stuff, but in respect of the superstructure of interpretation, how we live it, how we share it, how we enjoy it, how we feel about it. In that realm, it is not only appropriate but essential that we shall be charitable, open, and listen to one another and see that all that stuff is really coming from the same place, from the foundation. And totally different it is from the foundation, which is not a matter of argument, not a matter of your opinion and my opinion. It is a matter of scientific fact. And on this sure foundation, we build our lives, and on this sure foundation alone, I am you, and we come together absolutely on that foundation, not in the superstructure, where the differences are so splendid, but their differences are very great. It's in the foundation that we are one. We share a common foundation, and that's what really matters. Well, we have one more experiment.
Nous avons une expérience de plus à faire maintenant.
This experiment is to answer the question, how would you show this to a blind man?
Et cette expérience est destinée à répondre à la question qu'on nous pose souvent, comment montreriez-vous cela à une personne aveugle?
And if it is not available to blind people, it must be very superficial.
Car si ce n'est pas accessible aux personnes aveugles, ce doit être quelque chose de très superficiel.
So we're going all now, temporarily, to go blind.
Alors nous allons tous, pour un moment, devenir aveugles.
And see what we see when we are blind.
Et voir ce que nous voyons lorsque nous sommes aveugles.
And in other words, we're going to shut our eyes, please, and keep them closed.
En d'autres termes, nous allons fermer les yeux, s'il vous plaît, et les garder fermés.
For the length of this experiment.
Tout au long de cette expérience.
And we have to go by present evidence.
Et nous devons nous baser uniquement sur l'expérience directe,
not by imagination,
non pas sur l'imagination,
but on what is given clearly at this moment.
mais uniquement sur ce qui nous est donné clairement à l'instant présent.
Now, we can imagine here a human shape
Maintenant, nous pouvons imaginer ici une forme humaine
with 10 toes and 2 legs,
avec 10 doigts de pied et deux jambes,
and 10 fingers and 2 arms,
et 10 doigts et 2 bras,
and a trunk and a head.
et un tronc et une tête.
That's all imagination, isn't it?
Mais c'est pure imagination, n'est-ce pas?
Because you can imagine 20 toes,
Parce que vous pouvez tout aussi bien imaginer 20 doigts de pied,
1,000 toes,
1000 doigts de pied,
no toes.
aucun doigt de pied.
On present evidence, what is your shape?
Sur l'évidence du moment, quelle forme avez-vous?
Look, supposing Catherine were a wonderful magician at this moment.
Supposez que Catherine soit un magicien, une magicienne très puissante en ce moment.
And she pronounced a spell that turned you into a mouse.
Et elle a exercé un charme qui vous a transformé en souris
Or dragon.
ou en dragon.
Well, how do you know she is not doing that now?
Comment savez-vous qu'elle n'est pas en train de faire cela maintenant?
You've no evidence.
Vous n'avez aucune preuve.
She may be doing that.
Peut-être qu'elle est en train de faire cela.
On present evidence, is there any place where you stop and the world begins?
Sur l'expérience directe de la perception du moment, y a-t-il un endroit où le monde s'arrête, où vous vous arrêtez et où le monde commence?
Who are you now in your own experience?
Qui êtes-vous maintenant selon votre propre expérience?
Are you not again space,
N'êtes-vous pas de nouveau espace,
capacity without boundaries,
capacité sans limite,
capacity for sound?
espace pour recevoir le son?
We call it silence.
Nous l'appelons silence.
Are you not silence?
N'êtes-vous pas le silence?
You are not able now to say, I am this, or I am that, or I am the other.
Vous ne pouvez plus dire maintenant je suis ceci, ou je suis cela, ou je suis autre chose.
But I suggest you have one name left,
Je suggère qu'il ne vous reste plus qu'un seul nom,
which is your true eternal name.
qui est votre nom véritable, votre nom éternel.
It's a fantastic name.
C'est un nom fantastique.
It's the name of the one who will never perish.
C'est le nom de celui qui ne périra jamais.
And it is I am.
Et c'est je suis.
And this is what all the great religions have been telling us.
Et c'est ce que toutes les grandes religions nous ont dit.
Nearer to us than all else.
Plus proche de nous que tout